I thought it would be interesting to come up here, talk to my dad a little bit, bring some of you up if you want to ask questions of going, hey, how bad of a kid was Todd? Because there's plenty of stories to be told. And then I'll tell you a couple of stories about him, and there should be one that will horrify you in particular. If anybody sort of, who's a fan of comic books here? Who's a fan of, who's a fan of original artwork here? Okay, well you guys might gasp at the story I'm going to tell you about my dear dad. Oh, and speaking of my dad, here he is, Mr. Todd McFarlane. Okay. So we're going to bring you here, Dad, and sit down. My dad's a little bit old. He's got a bum knee, so he can't move around quite as much as me. So we're going to sit you down here, Papa. Come sit down here, and I'll give you this one right here. This is your mic. Can you hold that? All right. So here. Oh. Test. Oh, hey. All right, I'll give you this one. You come here, I'll scoot you over here. All right. You go. Come sit here. All right. Now, here's where some of the art influence came from. My dad was in the printing business, so he was a graphic artist. Not technically an artist, but sort of. I thought I was going to be a commercial artist, and following my dad's footsteps. He was a printer for 40, 50 years before he quit and went and taught at SAIT. So if anybody's had any time at SAIT, my dad, after he left, he taught over there. But when I went to college to get a degree, I didn't know if I was going to break into comics, and I didn't know if I was going to be a baseball player, which is why I was down in the States. So I got a degree in graphic arts. I thought I was going to do graphic arts and follow in my dad's footsteps. So that's where sort of some of that element came from. Also, I don't even know if you remember, my dad was actually a pretty good artist, right? And so sometimes he used to sit down. I had a brother a year younger, a brother a year older. 10 years later, my sister came, who was sitting over here, and Dad would come home from a long day of work. I don't know if you remember. And we'd give him pieces of paper and we would just tell him what to draw and he would draw it. Now to us, we were young, I thought he was the best artist I ever met, right? Again, in hindsight, it wasn't that good, but when you're 6, 7, 8 years old, you're looking at it going, wow, wow, wow. And so some of the inspiration, a lot of the inspiration of art came from basically hanging out with my dad. So we're going to start telling stories. I don't know if you've got any stories about me, but I'm going to tell a couple stories about you and how we ended up getting your son to be on stage, being a comic book guy. So I don't know if you have anything you want to say to the crowd as you get him warmed up. I'm trying to get him to say twice a week he goes to A&W with the boys. You know, do you guys have people like that? And I told him, this is just A&W, there's just more boys here today, right?
Speaking of the designing, young man, can you get up and demonstrate? That's one of the designs that Todd designed for the opposition. Yeah. But in the meantime, I want to make you feel very comfortable. And if you can name this song and the artist, you all win a prize tonight.
That's what friends are for. Somebody got a winner,
And who's the artist?
We got a loser,
Stevie.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. My dad also played harmonica his whole life, and was in the bands or would play on the road. what actually went to, I didn't know this was a thing. You know how you guys say you're going to a comic convention and your neighbors go, I didn't know that was a thing. My dad used to go to harmonica conventions. Didn't know that was a thing either, right? So he used to travel around and they used to go to harmonica conventions. What did you do at the harmonica conventions?
Well, mainly tell lies, but they were good ones.
So I think, what did you even do? You weren't playing songs, or were you? You weren't doing autographs and doing panels. What were you doing?
Well, chasing the latest technology.
They said ladies. I'm going to I think his wife's not here. So.
At any rate, it was a lot of fun because it gave me a chance to visit other parts of Canada and America, and meet some great people. Just like I met some great people so far this day. And look at this young man there with the Chiefs.
Slapshot. We got Slapshot right here. So my dad coached me in baseball. I don't know if you guys know I played baseball at a pretty high level. I played all the way up to Pac-10 baseball, right? My dad was my coach. Let me also tell you, how many of you ever had your dad ever coach you or your mom ever coach you in a sport? Okay, good. I see a decent amount of hands. Okay, next question. How many of you ever had your parent trade you? My dad traded me, right? So I don't know if it was willing. I sort of talked him into it. So here's how the story goes. My dad's coaching me on a team, and we're doing pretty good. But I've got a younger brother coming up through the pipeline. And one day when we're playing baseball, I'm up at the plate, I'm left-handed, and I fly across the plate on the other side, the team we're playing, but the team we're playing has this really cute back girl, right? And I'm like, oh man, right? I don't even know if I hit the ball that time, but I was like, oh man. And so later on after the game, I started chit-chatting with the coach who had a son, and the coach's daughter was the bat girl. So I started talking to her. And then the plan starts to percolate. I could spend more time with that girl if I get traded to that team. So now I have to convince my dad, who's coaching me, to trade me, right? And here's how it went, and he fell for it eventually. I said, Dad, look, I'm getting old, I'm aging out, I'm 16, I'm getting old now. You should trade me for two 15-year-olds. Make a trade to that team, because that team hadn't made the playoffs for 4 or 5 years. Trade me to that team. Come on, look forward to the future, get two 15-year-olds. You're going to get my brother, Derek, coming. Build for the future. Get rid of the old 16-year-old off the roster. And eventually, he made the trade. To the point that there was a time where he was coaching and I wasn't on the team. So all his friends would go, Bob, aren't you coaching? Yeah? Isn't that your son on the other team? Yeah? I thought you used to coach your son. Yeah? What? I traded him. Now, here's the upside. That little cute little bat girl that was over there, I used to then run 2 miles every day to the house. Half an hour early because I asked the coach if he would give me a ride to practice every day. So then I could court the bat girl for an extra half an hour, right? So here was the win-win out of that situation. The 2 players my dad traded me for and my brother coming up ended up gelling, and not only did they win the championship, they went undefeated, didn't they? So talk to them about that for a bit. Talk to them about that for a bit.
Well,
hearing's not good either.
I'm not a braggart, but at any rate, it was a case where we ended up 25-0, which isn't bad.
Not only 25-0, but there is a Sports Hall of Fame in Red Deer, and if you ever happen to stop there, there's a picture of that 25-0 team with my dad and my brother. I'm not, because I got traded, right? So, but they're on there going 25-0. So they won the championship. It worked out well. He built the future, got 25-0, is in the Hall of Fame, and did it. You know what I got out of it? I got my wife. That was the back girl. So I got traded, got to court the young 13-year-old black girl, and then the back girl eventually, after 7 years, became my wife. So it actually worked out in the long run.
Wanda, please acknowledge the crowd.
They're my wife. Okay, now, I'm going to tell them the story that's going to horrify them, and then you can tell them any damn story you want, all right? So,
can I sit for this one?
Yes, you should. So, I finally get into comic books, and I start climbing the ladder of success, and eventually I get the book that a lot of you heard of, Amazing Spider-Man. Right? I finally climbed to the pinnacle of Amazing Spider-Man. I don't know how many of you guys know, but the first issue I ever did on Amazing Spider-Man was issue 298. 298, some of you know the cover. If I showed it to you, you'd know the cover, right? The price of that's gone up. It's the beginning of the McFarlane run, etc., etc., etc. So, when I was doing the original artwork, I would go to conventions just like this, and I'd sell the artwork. I had my stack of original artwork, and one time my dad was looking through the artwork, and he's like, "Hey, son, is it okay if I pick out a couple pages for myself?" "Yeah, sure, Dad. I don't know, you can take a couple." He picks out the cover to issue 298. Okay, but he's my dad, okay, take it, right? So he takes it. And then he decides, after I leave, and this is years after I sort of left town, and I was climbing it. He just sort of had it off to the side. He decides, my son's now getting really famous on Spider-Man. I'm going to frame that page. I'm going to frame that page. And so, guess what dear old dad did? He took the page, and he went to Kmart to get a frame. Wouldn't want to get a custom frame, but wanted to go get a frame. But the pages we draw are 11 by 17. There are no 11 by 17 frames. So you have to get a bit smaller frame. But the artwork wouldn't fit. So what do you have to do? He got the scissors. And he cut the page to fit the fucking $12 frame. That page is probably worth 400 grand, right? I don't know, now that he's cut it, probably right down. But he said, the 400,000, I'm gonna make it fit the $12 Kmart frame. And so, if that page is ever out in the open market for sale, and you see the image of it, and it's smaller, and all the borders are cut, and it's kind of crooked, this is the man that you have to thank for, right here.
But can I add to that? Baseball has the best saying, you don't make a mistake. I didn't mistake, I made an error. Sorry. Beautiful. Sorry, Todd. Where the hell did you go now?
Right here, I'm back here. All right, now I also know that, how many times did you get called or Mom get called to the principal's office or teacher's office because of your son, Todd? How many times do you think?
How many fingers do? Yeah. All I can add to that is that when his mom had discovered the beauty that he was dating at that time, meaning Wanda, and she said over and over again, if you don't marry that little girl, she says, I'm coming after you with a stick. And she could do that. She always carried a big stick. Yeah.
My dad would catch us for baseball. He would come home. We all wanted to be pitchers, and my dad would line up the three boys. Again, there's me, a brother, you're younger, brother, you're older, and we each wanted to be a pitcher, so he would be the catcher, and we would throw. I don't know if any of you got kids that want to be pitchers. But when you're young and you throw as hard as you can, you have no control, right? It's just about how hard you can throw it. And so my one brother would pitch and he'd bounce about 50 of them. My dad had constant welts on his body because we never got any equipment. And then I admired, because I remember he would catch the young brother, get beat up to hell, catch me, get beat up to hell, and then go and catch the older brother. And he never took time off. He was willing to actually catch all three of us. So again, as part of sort of learning a couple of traits, you just go, oh man, because I would see him literally afterwards. I see the welts from the balls bouncing and hitting him in his body on there. And he never complained. And then he'd get up, go to work, come back, and then do it all over again the next day if we wanted to pitch. So I was like, oh, so if you're in pain or things aren't going your way, you just persevere. You just keep going through it. You keep going, you keep going, you keep going, right? And so I'll tell you, I don't even know if you know, I'll tell you the one, arguably the greatest sort of gift my dad, my mom gave me. I had told them, and if there's any parents here, I think this is an important moment because I don't think you really understand when you're doing something for your kids that matter. At some point, I was collecting comic books, and I was a closet collector, right? Literally, you know, you say, oh, you're in a, I was keeping it in the closet, and when I first dated Wanda, she'd come over, and she goes, hey, I'll get you a shirt. And I'm like, no, I'm okay, I'll go get it myself, right? And I'd get it in there, and then at one point I opened up, and she was horrified, right? She opened up, and she went, what's this? And I had them all in order, all my comic books stacked. And of course, in that moment, there's only one thing you can say. They're my brothers. They're not mine. But eventually she found out, and she was okay, because I reversed it, right? Usually you sort of collect comic books, and then you get old enough, and then you start dating, and you forget the comic book collection, and you move on. I actually did I was dating, and then I went, oh man, I'm going to collect comic books, and I went that way. But I was practicing drawing, and I told my mom and dad, I'd like to maybe be an artist someday. Now, most people you say that, and they're like, oh, that's okay. That's like saying you're going to be an astronaut, right? But I just said that, and there was never a moment where mom or dad ever begrudged me from wanting to have that dream. And not only that, and here's the moment that they don't know that was really impactful on my life. That Christmas, they bought me a drawing table. It's like saying to your parent, hey, I'd like to be a hockey player, and at Christmas you get a new hockey stick, right? I want to be a baseball player, and they buy you a glove. It's a tool that you need to be able to excel to that next level. And mom and dad bought me, I don't know if you remember, you bought me a drawing table, drafting table, whatever. And I kept that table. Every page of the Hulk and Amazing Spider-Man were drawing on that same table. I took that with me forever. I still have it. But now I do it digitally, so I don't have to draw it physically on that table. But I still have that table. It's sitting in my office. I did the pages, a bunch of the pages for this Batman Spawn, and I did a bunch of pages for Spawn 300 because I was physically doing it on that same table that my mom and dad gave to me when I was 16 years old. So I don't know. So whether parents know it, there are moments where you do stuff for your kids that actually matter. That told me when I got that table that they were supportive of what it was that I wanted to do. That's why when I see parents with their kids at conventions, I think it's impressive. Even though you may not enjoy it yourself, you don't get it, you don't collect it, that you are there with your kids, supporting them in whatever endeavor they like, I think it's valuable. I think you're making an impact and you don't even know it. So anyway, there's my story. You can tell whatever bad story you want.
But to expound on what's happening here today, and I can honestly say that, and I'm sure you've heard of the San Diego con, which is huge, almost as huge as the one in Calgary here. But I'll never forget, he convinced me, he says, Dad, he says, I want to take a drive down to San Diego. You know, for me, coming from Calgary, that's going back to the, you know, that was quite distance. So anyway, bravely, we went down, crossed the border, and went to San Diego Con, and everything was nice. Todd had his samples, nice. But anyway, not too much happened that particular time. And a year later, exactly a year later, he says, I want to go back to the con. And at that time, I was working at SAIT, and I had some obligations for instructing over the summer. Not to worry, he found his way to San Diego. He came back, and he says, I said, how the hell did you make out, son? And he says, they bought me lunch. I've got it made. And that's the honest truth.
Okay, so let's talk about that first trip, because there's a couple things my dad taught me that day, gave me another quasi-gift. Actually, it's a pretty good gift on that trip. I don't know if you remember or not. We were driving through Nevada, and it was a hot day, and your air conditioning went on your car, right? So I don't know if you guys have ever been in a car. No, not the air conditioning. The car started to overheat. You ever been in a car that starts to overheat? The best way to get a car, if you've ever driven a car and your car's overheating, the first thing you need to do is turn on the heat. Because the car is overheating, the engine's got too much heat in it, you have to turn on the heater and turn it on full blast and get as much heat out of the engine as possible. It's a trick. It won't save the whole way, but you'll see the heat go down real quickly. So if you're ever in that predicament, that's the move. Not comfortable, but that's the move. We were in Nevada, and it was about 105, and his car starts to overheat. And so it's already 105, and we have to now blast the heat. Dad, without saying it, I think was having a heat stroke. And the only reason I say that is when we finally got to Vegas, and he said, you want to go to the pool? I'd never seen my dad ever swim. Like, you want to go to the pool? Okay. And all he did for the next half an hour is go, and he went underwater for as long as he could. And he came up, and he went underwater. And I'm like, I don't understand what he's doing. And the instructor is like, oh man, the old man almost died on the road to California. But that night, he made another lasting, lifetime impact on me. So we go to bed at about midnight or something, I don't know, it was late. And then at 2 o'clock, he wakes me up. Not intentionally. He wakes me up. Dad, what are you doing? I gotta take a pee. Okay. I go back to sleep. 4 o'clock, he wakes me up. Dad, what are you doing? I gotta take another pee. Takes another pee. 5:30, I hear a crunching sound. He's sitting at the edge of the bed eating nacho chips. And I go, what are you doing? Well, I have to get up and take another pee. And from that day forward, I vowed that I would never get up in the morning or in the middle of the night ever to take a piss. And I don't. I have arguably the world-class bladder that anybody, and I'll tell you how good it is. I did a CGC signing not long ago. I get there at 7 in the morning, and I say, we're gonna get there at 7 in the morning, and I'm gonna sign till midnight. We're gonna go from 7 in the morning to midnight. That's like 16 hours, 17 hours, and I'm not gonna move. We're gonna get this done, because the more I sign and the less I move, the faster I get out of here, and it was like 6 days of signing. And they were like, yeah, Todd. And then 5, 6, 7 hours into it, they go, we gotta quit, we gotta go for lunch. I'm not going for lunch. I'm not going for lunch. well, some of the people have to go for lunch. I'm not. You're going to have to bring in another crew. They brought in another crew. They eventually figured out, well, what about bathroom breaks? I don't take bathroom breaks either. I don't do it. I can go all day, right? And so I, at the age of 63, can go days and days and days and never have to go to the bathroom. Now, when I do, it's record-setting, let me tell you. It's record-setting. But I just go, I will never wake my children up 3 times in the middle of the night, and I can do it. Now, here's how you do it. Let me just sort of tell you, it's sort of an easy rule here. This is super easy. Don't put anything in the top hole, nothing comes out the bottom hole. So you people drink coffee in the morning, and you drink juice and tea. I don't put anything in the top hole. Don't have to worry about it, right? So again, it was weird during the pandemic. Everybody was worried about the bottom hole first instead of the top. I would have got food first instead of toilet paper. That's a whole nother conversation. So the 3 boys. We had 3 boys, right? A year younger, me, and the other one. How problematic was that? You should talk.
They never fought. and I lie a lot. Yeah. But at any rate.
How many times did Mom get mad at us while you were gone?
Oh my gosh. And she was a tough lady, I'll tell you. She didn't take no, yeah, I mean, but at the end, I got all 3 boys that I was very proud of, and especially on a day like today, I can exhibit a citizen in Todd McFarlane.
Oh. Let me tell you right now, Dad's being really shy because he may be the most charismatic person that I know. He's being really shy up on stage, right? So I know what's going to happen. As soon as he gets off the stage, he's going to actually revert into the true pop, right? If you guys come to some of the signings, he's going to be working the line. You'll get to see him, right? He's being a little polite here right now. But again, when people used to ask me when I was growing up, like, well, who do you want to be? I just want to be like my dad, right? My dad was a hard-working, honest, fair-minded person. Who doesn't want to be that person, right? The fame and fortune part of it was like, I wasn't even thinking about it in those terms. So, again, I was proud of my mom and my dad. My mom, not up on stage here, my mom passed away a few years ago during COVID. Tough time because they wouldn't even let you go to the hospital and say goodbye to your parents. So, but lots of people sort of were in that bucket. But we had a typical growth with 3 boys that got in trouble. Mom got really mad a lot of times at us. I was in the principal's office plenty of times, and I'd like to say up here publicly, a lot of it, my dear Dad, was because of me just watching you live your life in what I thought was a genuine, caring, fair-minded way. So if any of these people enjoy what I do or like what I do, I'd like to say that part of it is because of you. So if you guys could give them a... And he's currently, again, I know it's meaningful coming up here, he's going through a tough time right now. His wife is currently separated from him involuntarily that we're trying to remedy. So we're going through a bit of a time. Yeah. So I know he likes the conventions here, so I appreciate you guys bringing him up on stage. If you guys we got maybe 1 or 2 questions that we got to get off that we're winding down here. Anybody's got a question here that they want to ask? We've got some giveaways. The first couple questions here, I've got some toys I'll sign and we'll give it away to somebody here. Oh, we got the Oilers guy right here. Look at that, you give free shit away and then everybody rushes out.
How about a movie update?
Movie update, I'm going to do a panel on Saturday. I'll give it. Here's what I can tell you, something big is going to happen one direction or another later this summer, right? Later, so that's when the big news is going to come, right? So I'll expand on all of that on Saturday and give you the behind the scenes stuff right now. But it's coming, and like I said, when that movie gets off the ground one way or the other, I'm gonna bring a premiere here to Calgary, right? I'm gonna bring it here. All right, thanks.
With all the advances in AI art, is there still openings for guys who do original pencil and ink artwork?
Yeah, sure. Skilled art. I mean, AI maybe might start printing on like concept art and maybe even cover art or something, but not page-to-page continuity. And I haven't figured it, like nobody's figured out how to use it to actually do a comic book, right? So maybe someday, who knows? But right now, no, right? It's and again, computers are a tool, right? You can use them for good, you can use them for bad. So we'll see how it sort of evolves out in the future here. So,
how do I get to look at my portfolio?
just come up to the table and show it to me. So don't be shy. Look at it. How did I do it? I remember I went to San Diego that one my dad took me, and they were doing portfolio reviews, and there was like 300 people in line. I got there late, and I knew they were only doing it for an hour. I was never going to do it. So guess what I did? I waited till the guys that were doing it had to take a piss. Because they're weak. And so they went to the bathroom, and I followed them into the bathroom, and Jim Shooter, he was the head of Marvel at that time. Jim Shooter was doing a portfolio review, and he went and took a piss. I went and took a fake piss. And then he flushed, I flushed, he did a shake, I did a fake shake, right? And then when he came out, he washed his hands, I washed my hands, and when he left, I went, oh, Mr. Shooter. He was going back to the portfolio. Mr. Shooter, I've got my portfolio. Will you take a look at it? And guess what? He took a look at it, and he gave me notes. And some of those notes I applied to get my job. So you just can't be shy, right? Even if he's taking a fake piss. Yeah. All right, one more question, and then we're out of here, I think. I wish Mom was here. She wants to know what I did to get sent to the principal's office. Let me see if I can just make it easy on you. There's like rules for everybody else, and then there's like talk, right? And it frustrates my wife. My wife has got plenty of stuff. I don't adhere to the rules if I think that there's nothing destructive happening in it, right? Like my kids get weird. They're like, Dad, you're driving down the middle of the road right now. Yeah, because there's nobody fucking coming. As soon as a car comes, I'll move over. Like when there's a car coming, I know what the rule is. But if there's no car up front or back for a mile, who cares? Like this is, you know the old rule of coloring outside the lines? I color way outside the lines, right? I just like, so what? Here's my theory. If everybody goes to the left, I go to the right. If everybody goes to the right, I'll go to the left. So I got a Samsung. You know I got a Samsung? If people got fucking apples. And if everybody started buying a Samsung, I'd buy an apple. Right? So I don't drink coffee. You know why? Because everybody drinks coffee. And if they all stop, I start drinking it. Right? I don't want to be part of the crowd. So I intentionally don't do stuff just out of spite. You know, and I just set these sort of goals for myself. But that's it. But in high school, it was cursing, fighting, drawing. One time, the first time I remember going sent to the principal's office, and this is silly because my mom got really mad. We were supposed to draw some drawings from the Bible, and I was in grade 1 here in Calgary, and I drew Adam and Eve, and I drew a willy. I drew a willy on Adam because I heard they were naked. And I got called in and I got reprimanded because I had drawn a willy instead of a leaf. And I was like, I don't know. And that was the beginning of it, right? All the other kids drew a leaf. I heard he was naked. Naked's naked, right? So, and it just began. I never understood it. So sometimes you get in trouble for things you don't think you're doing wrong. And my mom defended me that day, right? Well, you told him that was the assignment. he drew and he's been taught, why is he in trouble? But that was only one of about 50. We were on a first name basis with every principal. Let me just say that. So, anyway, I appreciate you guys coming out. Tomorrow's a big panel. Again, thanks to my dad. I got my wife over here. I've got my nephew back here who's from Calgary too. And then I've got my dear sister and my daughter's here someplace. She's a Yankee though. She was born down in the States, don't hold against it. So it's a bit of a family affair. You guys enjoy it. We're going to enjoy this weekend. See you tomorrow on stage. We'll talk about the movie in depth, right? So keep going.